Hello everyone, it's Gill-boy here, and I'm very much excited to finally bring you my review of The First Omen. I know I have promised this film review for a while now, and I'm happy to now present it to you for all of you to behold and to enjoy, and all of these things. And it's being dubbed The First Omen. I am, of course, talking about the 2024 film and not the original masterpiece. If you want that review, you'll have to wait for my retro dive in for that, which will come in the not too distant future. However, today we are going to be discussing The First Omen. Now, in doing so, let us first kind of discuss who directed this film. Now, this was directed by our Kashka, hang on, gotta adjust my glasses here, Stevenson. And this is her directional debut. And I have to say, bravo, you did a phenomenal job. If I'm not mistaken, you also co-wrote this screenplay with Tim Smith. And I have to say the script is phenomenal. And this is, I think, categorized obviously as an occult supernatural horror film, but it also belongs to the nunsploitation films that were kind of common in British, in England in the 70s. Now, this to just give you the kind of plot here, it's basically follows an American nun who is sent to work at a Catholic orphanage in Rome, who uncovers a sinister conspiracy to bring about the birth of the Antichrist. So, as you can imagine, it's full of sunshine and rainbows. No, it's a very gruesome, gritty, dark film. I have to say there is some callbacks to the film Possession, which is a very disturbing supernatural horror film that is worthy of its own retro deep dive review video. However, that film has definitely inspired certain elements of this film, and it would be a disservice to not mention the film that also came out in the same year, Immaculate, which is pretty much kind of the same plot line. Both films have to do with female bodily autonomy and, the creepiness of oppression and all that kind of disturbing, dark, demonic, occult themes woven throughout it. Now, there could be a much deeper dive into this video as far as symbolisms and stuff like that. But for now, we'll just give you the review. So, ultimately, it starts off pretty creepily. You got two priests talking, and it's clear one's doing some shenanigans. Not doing something that maybe the Lord above would be too proud of, as they say. Now, in this little moment, you get this creepy intro where one of the priests is leaving. Yeah, in this kind of creepy opening we get here, we get Charles Dance, who's in Alien 3, and of course the very popular TV show Game of Thrones. And as he's leaving the steeple above the other priest, which is the more faithful one, Ralph, I believe his name, Ralph Leeson, or Eidson, pardon me, who's famously in a lot of Robert Eggers films. He's in the new Nosferatu, he's in Witch and The Northman, and is in really good films, is having a discourse, and as they are, the steeple falls and crashes down onto the, Charles' back of his head. And you know, it's all very creepy, and he turns around and you see this big gore effect. And then you're cut to the title screen. And then we follow, shortly after that, you know, after the title screen, we're introduced to our main character, played by Neil Tiger, excuse me. And she gives a very riveting, raw performance. The acting in this film is really good. Like, it's a very well-made film. It's got a good script, a good director, a good cinematographer, and great lighting and acting and score. Bill Nighy is also in this film, and as the Cardinal. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and say that I would rank this film maybe a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this film. It was very, very disturbing. They use a lot of practical effects for like the demons and the jackal, and then they use CGI to enhance these effects. And this is one of those movies that's kind of like Long Legs, in the fact that as soon as you start talking about the plot, it kind of like spoils the whole film, right? And it's a very slow burn that just is relentless in its third act, that synchronizes perfectly with the first Omen film. And they also kind of leave it open, like there's like this little epilogue part at the end, to where you could make a direct sequel to this film if you really, really wanted to, but more or less the core storyline is finished, you know? And so ultimately, we're going to get into spoiler territories now. So if you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend that you pause this, go watch it yourself, and come back here and we can talk and, you know, discuss what it is that you did like about the film and what you didn't. All right, so you've been warned. So basically, you know, it's about a nun. She goes to be in this orphanage. She's starting to realize that there's like this kind of creepy satanic cult. The nuns are kind of treating this one child really weirdly, and she's drawing all these drawings that's showing some kind of like satanic ritual abuse. That's, you know, in its own right really scary. The door handle into that room where they put the bad girls, the bad children, is like Medusa or a Gorgon's head. And it's really creepy, man. Like, every shot in this film is almost like a painting. And it's just every cut and transitional shot is so beautiful, and it just builds on the intensity. This director is very, like, you could tell they had a vision, and they were very calculated in how they wanted things to be shot and framed. I can't praise this director and this film enough in that regard. It really draws you in, and it draws you in very quickly, and it's very much feels like a 70s film, you know, and it feels like it was like, oh, this was the sequel to The Omen or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like a lost 70s, early 80s film is what it feels like, which is awesome, because it's got like a retro feel to it, and it has like all this love and respect for horror and for its subject matter. And like I said earlier, you could do a whole deep dive into all of this and just dissect it. It's just so awesome. So if you really liked like all the symbolism in Long Legs and stuff like that, you'll really love the symbolism in this film too. Now there is a lot of gruesome shots pertaining to things coming out of women when they give birth. It is not very afraid to show you a very disturbing demon hand coming out of a woman's genitalia. And it is very gruesome, it is very graphic, and it's very shocking. And it's in your face, but it's a slow burn in your face shot that then tells you to look at it, and then it goes away. And it's very scarring. Like, it is perfectly executed. It's like a jump scare, but not a jump scare. It's a jump scare of like your psyche, and it is so perfectly done, to the point to where, like I said, this director should get. I can't wait to see their next film, basically. Now, the other actress in it, Maria Calabero, gives a really awesome portrayal as well. And it's just kind of like a cool little thing where she's about to become a nun, right? And she's like, well, let's go out and party. And you know, you can kind of just see that they're trying to pick away, or like outside forces are picking away at this faithful American nun's faith, right? Like, she's slowly starting to notice things are gnarly and not going good. And then all these outside forces are like, well, yeah, take off your nun robes and let's go out and party. And, you know, it's okay to have a drink. So it's like very, like, you could see it's like the devil, like, trying to tempt her out of her faith and stuff. And it's so creepy, man. It's very Faustian in some regards in that way, where it's like her temptation and drawing away. And it plays with all the political turmoil of that time period, which kind of mirrors our time period as well. So, and the relativityness and the presence of the church, of the Catholic Church. So it's a really cool, weird parallel to our time and the time that this is taking place. And there's this really cool shot where you get these protesters that come in and they just start, you know, destroying everything, vandalizing, you know, as the Empire would say in Star Wars, being rebel scum, destroying all of this beautiful art around you. Our main character is trying to escape, and she kind of gets like into the crowd and separated from the cardinal and from, you know, her posse at the church. And it's real creepy, man. They've got like this practical demon hand that comes and like grabs her and stuff, and then it comes and like licks her face, and there's all the slime and goo. Like, all the creature effects look real. It is so refreshing that we're finally in a time where we're getting away from this CGI abominational nightmare hellscape that we're in. Now, if you got an all animated film, obviously CGI is pretty cool, right? But if you got like a live action film, man, come on, let's do some practical effects. Use the CGI to enhance it. You know, that's always been my position. And to see that this director shares that, and we're seeing other directors like Fide and, you know, just doing a really good job to bring back the more practical sculptures and miniatures and horror with other enhancements. That scene is really messed up. And then the only thing that I guess I could kind of criticize about this film, because I'm trying to find something that I didn't like about this movie, or something that just kind of I would maybe change. And there's kind of like a weird callback to the first film, where this other nun played by Ishtar Wilson kind of does the whole "it's all for you, Damien" thing, right? And then she like catches herself on fire. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing, but it's different. So that was kind of cool, but it was kind of like, I don't know, like, it almost makes it like, you know, it's like, that's the only, like, this is the Omen, you know, like, it just feels like they're like, hey, this is the Omen, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's in that universe. Because you honestly, you know, could write any kind of movie about the birth of the Antichrist, which is, you know, I brought up the other film, Immaculate, which is kind of like the same story. But this one is like, yo, this is Omen franchise. And that's what that kind of felt like in that scene. So if it's the only kind of real complaint or something that kind of semi-broke immersion, but not really to the point to where it's something to make a big deal about. But like I said, I want to give a fair review as much as possible, and if that's the only kind of nitpick I can give, that would be it. Other than that, I think this film is a masterpiece, and I'm sad to see. I mean, I know it was received well and got good reviews from audiences and critics, but in my experiences, not many people have seen this film, which is why I wanted to do a review. I highly recommend it. If you like The First Omen, you will like this film. Obviously, The First Omen is the best. And when I mean The First Omen, I mean the original film. See, that's why this is kind of awkward to talk about these movies. Which Omen am I talking about? Oh my God. I'm so confused. The Omen within the Omen. Omenception. Okay, seriously, joking aside, go see this film. It's awesome. Obviously, there's like supposed to be some kind of like weird twist of who the mother of the Antichrist will be in the film. I feel like if you've seen the trailer, you kind of already know who that is. So there is, like, for me, the weird twist. I was like, well, duh. It's like obviously the American Nun, and she was also like the child that got birthed from the beast too, which is kind of like a cool thing. Now that I didn't see coming, which kind of restored it, but they try to be like, oh, it's the little girl that they keep locking into the room. She's going to be the mother of Damien Lick. But it's like, well, this movie happens a few, years before so by the time she's able to give birth, it wouldn't make sense. So if you can do math, it's not like a really big, like, oh my God, that's a big twist right there. Totally didn't see that coming, brah. So obviously she's the mother of the beast and gives birth to the beast because they put her through a ritual. And there's this cool like possession scene where she's like glitching out like is also done in Nosferatu. So the film Possession has influenced 2 horror films from last year, Nosferatu and The First Omen. And she gives like this weird, and of course it's kind of weird and sexual, like, seizure kind of thing. And, of course she goes into labor. And so they take her and she gives birth, and the big surprise is that she gave birth to perfect twins. One was a woman, a little girl, and one was a man, a little boy. And of course they choose the man because, as the Bible says, the Antichrist will be a man. And they're like, I will call him Damien, and it's like, it's got like the Gregorian chants. It's real creepy. And it's like, oh my God, the whole orphanage she was with, all those nuns and priests were all Satanists. What a surprise. And then the cardinal comes out and he's like, yes, my child, look what God has done. Don't you feel the presence of God? And she's like, no. And I'd be too. I'm like, bro, this is Satan, dog. Like, what are you talking about, right? And then he's like, well, we're actually, like, doing God's will, bro. Like, if we bring the Antichrist, people will believe in Jesus. So that's why we have, like, totally forced pregnancy on you. Thank you, And it's kind of like, pretty sure that's not what God would want. But whatever, you're a satanic cult. So that's the other problem that I had with this film, is I would have preferred this to have been more like, no, we hail Satan kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted it to be like they were a satanic cult that wanted to destroy the church. That's always how it was in my head canon. So to see it that it was like, oh, well, priests are doing it because they think they're serving God, which I guess you could argue maybe the devil's tricked them into doing that. But like I said, I would prefer it to be more, hyper metal, like, just pure worship of the devil and chaos. But unfortunately, they're like, no, we're still worshiping Jesus by doing this. So I thought that was a little lame. You all might, but not think that's lame, but I definitely did. And but other than that, I have to say, it's like, at the end, she gets away, she takes her daughter, she burns it all down to the ground, which was very metal, and then you see the jackal, and all of that creepiness, and you see it burn alive and stuff, which synchronized where they put the jackal's body in her grave, because they, like, make it look like she's dead or whatever. And clearly she escapes with this baby girl. And then it's, it starts this narration of what this demonic cult within the church is doing. And it starts showing you stuff from the first film, and it just synchronizes perfectly. But it really feels like genuine, and the overall just pacing of the film is dreadful and awful. And it's very, hardcore. And so that's basically how it ends, with them bringing Damien in and replacing with the child, showing the photo of, the original actor, Gregory Peck. Like, you see his character, like his ID. And then it just kind of cuts to black, right? And it shows you, Capitol Hill, where the Antichrist will rule. And then it then kind of has this post-credit scene where the good priest shows up, and she's in this house on the mountains and snowy, and she's got a double-barrel shotgun out there, and she comes in and she's like, I don't want nothing to do with none of this, I'm trying to live out here with my daughter. And he's like, well, I just want to let you know that you have a son, and his name is Damien. And then it's like, and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, cool, this is the Omen. Yeah, awesome part. Like I said, it's a cool film. It's very enjoyable. It's one of those where I will be honest, I watched once, and I was like, I don't know if I'd watch this again, because it was just hard to watch, because I don't know, it disturbed me really badly. There is a scene, which I waited to talk about now, which I know maybe some following will be like, well, you missed that part. There's a really disturbing kind of rape scene with the jackal in her, and that's really creepy and really disturbing. So it's as dreadful as Rosemary's Baby. If I had to compare it, I'd compare it to that. I know Rob Zombie has Lords of Salem, which is kind of like an Antichrist story. So I would say, it's as dark and as disturbing as all of those films, but in the Omen universe, which is cool to see. It's surprising that this took this long to make, I guess. And like I said, they left it open for a sequel, but I don't know if I'd want a sequel in this. I feel like it would just ruin stuff for some reason. You know what I mean? I just really do. I feel like it would muddy up the lore too much, or maybe take the series away from Damien or whatever. I think they should just leave it alone. I like how it's kind of open-ended, so you're like, okay, well, she's probably still alive during some of the sequels and stuff, which is kind of cool. I mean, I could see how you could do a sequel, but it'd have to be almost kind of like a weird remake of the second film, maybe. But either way, go check it out, man. It's definitely, I would say, a low 9 out of 10. I really enjoy it. I've seen it a total of 2 or 3 times, and man, that part where they lock her in the bad girl's room, and that nun that Istar plays, and she scorch earths herself and catches herself on fire, and they show her, she's in the corner and comes out of the darkness all burnt and stuff. Man, it is so creepy, man. I did not like that scene. I was so uncomfortable in the theater. I was like, man, and they hold that shot too and even zoom in on her, and you're just like, okay, please go away. And she's starts smiling and giggling. Man, it made me want to have a panic attack, man. Man, I'm just saying, it's creepy, bro. Be prepared. It is pretty scary and dark. Lots of cool callbacks to other supernatural horror films. Love the practical effects. I hope that you do actually give this movie a shot, because I definitely think it will be, in a weird way, its own cult classic, perhaps. And it was just cool to see another Omen movie, too, Like I kind of miss those movies. I mean, that series is already over. You know what I mean? And they've already remade the film. So I thought this was like a cool way to do it, you know? And I like how it attached itself to the original film rather than the remake. That's not to say I didn't like the remake. It's better to attach to the original because it, like I said, it feels like a lost 70s film. It's so awesome. So go check it out. You'll have a good time, and it'll probably make you want to take a bath in holy water afterwards. So enjoy. See you next time.